This is module M5D of the Indiana DOT Certified Asphalt Lab Technician program, and it deals with the measurement of asphalt content. So asphalt content can be done two different ways. One is by extraction. The second is by use of a burn-off oven. This video will show you how to determine asphalt content.
Sample is dried to a constant mass and weighed. Sample particles are separated and placed in a bowl and weighed. The filter has been dried to a constant mass and is also weighed. After you get those weights, you take the sample over to the centrifuge extractor, put it in position. Now we're going to add our solvent. We're going to add 1,000 milliliters of trichloroethylene. We'll pour it on the sample and we'll let it sit for 1 hour, a minimum of 1 hour, no more than 3 hours. You want to shake the bowl around a little bit to even the sample out in the bowl. Put your filter paper and your lid on your bowl. You want to lock it down. And after it sits for 1 hour, you place the lid on the extractor and you start the extraction. You start the extraction by slowly turning the centrifuge on, and you see the solution coming out. You run the extractor until the solution trickles out, no more is coming out, and then you'll add another 500 milliliters to the extractor at a minimum of 5 times, depending on the material that you're using. And you're trying to achieve a straw color. That'll let you know the extraction has ended. After you receive that straw color, you take the lid off. You remove the bowl out of the extractor and you take a look at it to make sure that you get a good clean rinse and there's no conglomerates in the mix. If there were conglomerates, you would have to re-add, try, and let it soak for a little while longer. But we had a clean rinse there. The solvent you collected through the extraction process, you have to run through a high-speed cup centrifuge. Take the cup, place it in the high-speed centrifuge. Get everything in place and you add your solvent. We're collecting the mineral matter from the actual sample this way. After that runs through, you'll give it a rinse to make sure you rinsed all the asphalt out. You can see your fines in your cup after that. After the sample is dried overnight, we take everything out. You let it kind of cool for 15, 20 minutes. Then you weigh everything up. You take your filter off and you scrape the fines in back into the sample. And after you get that clean, you weigh the bowl in the sample and then you weigh your filter. After you recorded all of your dried weights, you do a calculation to achieve your asphalt content.
You keep the sample in the oven until it reaches stability, and it'll tell you by 2 consecutive beats. You hit the stop button, you open up the door, and the asphalt content will be printed on the ticket. All right, before I get started, I gotta let you know that I split the sample down to the proper NDOT specification weight. Before we get to the sample though, first off we need to write down the tare weight of the basket. Now, after we do that, we will disassemble the basket assembly. And tear out the bottom basket. You grab your sample and you put in roughly about half the mix in the bottom basket. What we do from there is we will spread the mix out. And make sure none of the mix touches the sides of the basket. Put the top basket on. And make sure that we had it weighed properly, just make sure that's roughly in the same ballpark as the weight of the bottom basket. Once again, I'm spreading the mix out, and then I gotta make sure that none of it is touching the sides. I then zero out the scales. Assemble the basket entirely. And I write down the weight of the whole basket assembly and the sample. What I do from there is I will plug in the weight into the oven to the closest whole integer. In this case it'll be 2079. Now, next step is to look up the calibration factor that I established at the beginning of the year. In this case it'd be 42. Then what I want to do afterwards is double check to make sure I didn't have any fat fingers. I then zero out the scale. And I make sure that the cool scale and the hot scale are within 5 grams of each other. If they're not within 5 grams of each other, or if the numbers bounce around, it could signal that the basket is either touching the sides, or when the poles is touching the sides, or something may be wrong with the scale. Then you plug in the calibration factor, which in this case is 0.42, that is established by Section 6 of ITM 586. That lays down the groundwork. After the mix has cooled down to room temperature, which is on average about like at least 30 minutes, go ahead and remove the safety basket, the safety cage, and you take the burn basket with you. And you put it into a container, record the weight of the container, wrap it gently into the basket. Try and lose as little material as you possibly can. This is what the material looks like after it's burnt. P30 box? P30? Record the burn weight. And from there we will decant it. And then after we decant it, we go ahead and proceed to Asphalt T30. This concludes ITM 586.